This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
Welcome to Knife Talk, the only, well, I wouldn't say the only, but certainly the best podcast out there to do with knives.
The
With
number
myself-
one.
The number one in the world. In the world.
That's it.
With myself, Craig Lockwood of Chop Knives, as always, Jeff Fader of Fader Knives, and hoping to join us today, having some technical issues, is Mareko Momasi of Momasi Fire Arts, and of Full Blast fame from this week too, where Jeff and Mareko did an episode of Jeff's podcast, Full Blast, which was incredible. If you haven't listened to it yet, make sure you go and listen. It was a masterclass in interviewing.
Wow. Thank you.
It really was.
I appreciate that. We had a good time.
It was good. It was good.
Of
How
all
are
the
you, Jeff?
of all the episodes I've ever done, Mareko's was the one that I was the most careful about for a long time because I really wanted, when I do Full Blast, I really want it to be something that the guests are proud of, that they could show their parents. And I really wanted to give someone something different with Mareko, and he was very willing. And half of the, as you know, with interviews, half of it's your dance partner. So Mareko was into it, and he was very unguarded. We are going to definitely have to figure out something different in terms of the timing of Knife Talk because, he is a different guy once he's awake. I mean, totally different,
Oh, yeah. And when you mentioned dancing, and that man can dance too, apparently.
That was probably one of the most interesting parts of the episode because I'd always heard that he was a salsa dancing thing, and I thought there has to be something there, and it turns out that it was a giant fork in the road of his life. I mean, you want to talk about razor thin margins of how your life goes. I mean, that was a pivotal moment in his life. I mean, if he didn't do that salsa dancing class, he might be a pizza guy, in northern Washington,
So if you haven't heard it, surely that's piqued your interest.
Oh, for sure.
Mareko as a salsa instructor. So go and listen to Full Blast this week. It's a really, really good interview.
Well, thank you very much.
What else have you been up to, Jeff? What's been going on this week?
It's funny. This is something I wanted to talk about for a while. Have you ever gotten an email or contact to be a consultant?
No. On what? What type of consultant?
When you hear enough from adults, you think this is an adult moment where, someone's, I was consulted. I was asked to consult on this project. So I get this email from this company in Texas. And P.S., my heart's out for the people in Texas. Texas right now is what a disaster. I'm so sorry for what's going on. But this company sent me this message saying, what are your fees for being a consultant? We want you to consult on a project that we're planning on doing. And I said, I got the email. I was just like, yeah, I'm an adult now. I'm getting offers to being a consultant. I want to be a fucking consultant. That's adult shit. So before I said, here it is, I thought, maybe it's some more information on this company. So I sent him a message saying, well, it's hard for me to figure that out. Tell me about your company and what the scope of the work is. And it turns out they're this startup company in Texas who is designing a very inexpensive knife, and their target are the people of India.
What?
Yeah. So
how strange.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was crazy. So he's like, we're looking to make, the people of India, Indian cooks, they can't afford a certain price point for knives. So we're trying to address a market that is underserved, the people of India.
So these are American-made knives being sold into India.
Obviously, they're not going to be manufactured in America, but it was very much along the lines of this guy. Obviously somebody's just like, yeah, let's find this. Let's get somebody to put their stamp of approval on these bullshit Indian knives made from, designed in Texas, probably fabricated in who knows where, and then their target audience is, and I was just like, yo, I hear Forge and Fire selling a 2-piece set for $11. You're not going to beat that.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had to it was all of a sudden I thought I was the big shot adult to Yeah, I can't put my name on this. I'm sorry. I can't be, shilling.
To rein in those expectations.
$6 knives, $6 chef knives to some poor guy in Bangladesh or Bombay,
Fader
Bangladesh
approved.
Wow. So yeah, it's been cold, and more snow, and now we're getting ready for a little bit more snow. But I got some work done. I'm chewing up my list, which is great. So I got to finish some knives, and then we had a nice little windfall this past week, and we're gonna invest in getting some more knives cut out from different style knives cut out from New Jersey Steel Baron. My buddy's there. And then, actually, you know what? I messaged you because I spent one of the afternoons. My kid was my kid's been home almost. We're now on a year, coming up on a year. So I try to take her to do things. We went to this small town in the north of us, and we went into this little mountaineering store, and I bought this knife for $29. It was a Petzl, P-E-T-Z-L. I think P-E-T-Z-L. It's like a mountaineering knife. I only bought it because it looked interesting.
Yeah.
$29, and on the inside it was made in tears.
Ah. I was surprised when you said that, because Thiers has a very sort of definite shape. But I mean, I've just looked them up now. Yeah, it is Thiers made, yeah. But yeah, really inexpensive, and it's got this really different sort of mechanism, hasn't it, for sort of opening the fold.
Well, it was like, I thought it was 3D printed, but you're right. It was probably like a mold. But all I could think of is like, how are they making these knives in France and sending them to the United States and selling them for $29 in a retail shop?
Yeah, crazy. And import, export, all the rest as well. How are they still making a profit? It's crazy.
It's crazy, but what it did was it got me all fired up. So I made it a friction folder. I had to break up the monotony. I made a friction folder, and I used some subway, old New York City MTA tokens. It used to have a hole in the middle, and then the hole in the middle made it perfect for the washers. So I was able to kind of do that, and that was fun, and made me kind of want to do them again.
Yeah, I did see that picture. That did look really cool.
Yeah,
and
fun.
That was art, my friend.
It was meant to be a little bit sculpture-y. So.
But I mean, we just briefly mentioned, how are they making a profit if they're, importing them into the US and they're still selling them for like $20. But that's a problem that lots of people are facing at the moment, particularly in the UK and, with myself in Europe. Quite a few of my customers are obviously in the UK. And there's this whole thing with Brexit. And I've been speaking to other makers. I was speaking to Fingal about it, and I spoke to Toma at Florentine. And the way we've been sort of getting around that is basically marking down the price for shipping. So you're paying less sort of VAT, less export tax by saying that it's worth less. But that's obviously affecting your insurance then. So if they go missing, you're like, oh, fuck. So there's no real way. I've been sort of scratching my head. And I spoke to one of our listeners, Lubel Knives, who has recently moved to France himself, actually. Makes the most beautiful, beautiful knives. I think we talked about him last week as well. But he's put up this whole guide. So anybody who's unsure about what Brexit means selling into the UK, or whether you're in the EU or not in the EU. He's put up this whole guide. He's even got like a sample invoice as well, showing how he breaks things down with all the coding that you need. So if you go to Lubel Knives, Lubel knives.com/Brexit, he's put so much time into this for everybody just to take it. Have a look at it. He's got everything you need there. And even a downloadable sort of invoice template showing all the coding and stuff you need. So go take. Make sure you follow him too, because his knives are amazing. I mean, you talked about the videos that I do for my knives as being almost like burlesque. He dropped one yesterday, and when you talk about burlesque, that way it's all dark and it's incredible. So go and take a look at lubelknives.com/Brexit if you're unsure about selling into the UK. But also go and take a look at his knives, because they really are amazing. And I'll make sure I put that link down in the show notes too.
What a thoughtful thing to do.
And I know he put a lot of time into it as well. So yeah, it's going to save a lot of people a lot of heartache and a lot of trouble. Mareko, you're with us, I see.
I made it finally.
Yeah.
It's not
I was
how
just
like
complimenting
starting the day,
Geoff
and I'm
on
so
the.
sorry for the delay.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
no worries, no worries. I was complimenting Geoff on your interview this week on the Full Blast podcast. Really enlightening, and it was just great to hear your sort of story. It was a really good listen. So thank you very much for that.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, and again, Jeff, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Oh, dude, you're the
It was
man.
fun, and I was definitely nervous about. I mean, I made the decision early on. I think when you first asked me to be on, that I was just going to be an open book as best as I possibly could, and because you just never know what might help people. And I got a lot of really great messages of people, just saying nice things and saying that they relate and they're going through. So one guy was like, I'm going through the same shit right now that you did with Bob, and it really helps to see that you're doing well after all that. And so, yeah, it was good.
Dude, it was very relatable. I got so many messages about how, it's a lot of people were just like, Jeff and Mareko are just going to do knife talk without Craig. But it wasn't like that at all. And it was really like, I appreciate how forthcoming you were. And it was great. And I was definitely got a lot of messages about how helpful it was to hear what you were up to, and to see the people are real people. We were on Instagram and social media, and we portray ourselves a certain way, and they think that we don't have the problems that they do. And it was very, I think it was a breath of fresh air to a lot of people. So thank you.
Sure.
It was cool.
For sure.
What else you been up to, Mareko?
I got problems. I got loads of problems.
Well, we got to two-part it. That's why we got to two-part it. We didn't even get enough in.
Yeah, the last week, what have I been up to? Oh, I've been working on these knives, and what a kick in the balls. I was so close to finishing both of them, actually. One is this little knife. It's like a little 6-inch. It's called a honeski, which is basically like a utility / boning knife, Japanese kind of like origin and style. And it has this black and white ebony handle and with a Japanese cowboy faceted Western handle on it. And everything was coming out great. Hand sanding went super smooth and easy. I dip it in the acid, and there's this funky stuff happening on the blade, and I can't figure out what the hell is going on. I was like, God, that looks a lot like a hamon, but this is not this is Damascus. This isn't a style of knife I would have tried to do a hamon on. So I had no idea what was happening. And then as I ground more and more into it, or etched more and more on the blade, successive rounds, it definitely had a funky, weird hamon that was basically renders the knife useless, because there's a whole like inch and a quarter, inch and a half section of the blade that isn't properly hardened. And so I have a glorified butter knife on my hands, possibly one of the prettiest ones you ever seen. And so that knife's not getting sold. And that is a huge, like I said, a huge kick in the balls. The other knife I had, it was all coming out really great. And the front side of the spacer, so when I do my spacers, they're 3 pieces. When I do them, it's like black G10. This one has bronze in the middle, and then another piece of a thin black G10, like 30 thousandths, 25 thousandths of each of them. And they're always kind of like staggered and stepped. And apparently I didn't grind all the way down to the bottom, like the bottom space. There's like this weird part where the epoxy basically kind of filled in when I did the glue up, which is great, which is what you want. But you also, once you start shaping, you want to get down below that epoxy to the spacer material. And I just did not do that. And I didn't notice that I didn't do that until now. Like, I finally got a great etch on the blade. And I got to get back in there and do a little sculpting around that bolster transition, which is going to strip down the pattern. I got to get back in there and clean it back up, hand sand it, and get it back in the acid again. So that was super cool. So that being frustrating as it is, I got another order coming up. I got to make steel for. So today I'm forging, which will be a nice break from basically fucking up a bunch of stuff, making mistakes. And hopefully that all goes smoothly. Ideally it should. It's pretty straightforward pattern that I'm working on. I'm making this kind of like fern type pattern Customer really wants a fern with kind of a sanmai aesthetic along the edge. So it's gonna have like a sanmai edge with a fern pattern in the blade. Should be interesting. Ideally,
I love how
Could turn
our
out like
customers
shit.
are so different. I love how our customers are so different.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna say to me, "I want a fern pattern in your knife." They don't know the difference between carbon steel and stainless steel. They don't know what the fuck, you know. Can you just engrave something? Can you engrave my name on it? That's all I get.
Sometimes Steve and Danny down at oh my god, I can't think of the
Nora.
company's name right
Nora.
now. Nora Knives, yes. The way they do their laser engraving, part of me like wishes that I could just do that, or wonders if I should just do. Oh, you want some ferns? Cool. I got some people to help take care of that. We can make it happen.
Put some ferns, googly eyes, whatever you want.
So
Noted. That's what I'll be doing this week.
Sure.
One last thing about
And
the Haneski.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Those are also my old kitchen guys used to call those. I never knew it was called a Haneski. I just knew that they were also commonly referred to as chicken knives because they were they're like real good for boning and breaking down chickens.
Right, 100%. Yeah.
That's it.
Yesterday was a nice step out of the shop, though. My son and I spent the day doing some more woodworking. We made a bird feeder. We made this kind of like cheesy recycled bird feeder thing out of like recycled plastic and stuff we had at the house, and it just was not working. And so we went into the shop. I grabbed a couple cedar fencing boards. So for the cost of $5 an hour's worth of time, we and I guess a little bit of hardware and some brad nails, we made a bird feeder, and it turned out pretty good, I think. It's the first bird feeder I ever built, and definitely the first one he did. And he had a blast. I got him helping me push the wood to get cut on the bandsaw, and he was using the brad nailing gun. He thought that was super rad. And yeah, we had a fun time.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
How you doing, Craig?
It's been a super busy week of everything. So we talked last week about we've recently bought this new house, and we sort of started work on it this week, and we got builders in, that kind of thing. 1,200 square foot of flooring needs to come up, replace beams, and then put down new flooring, and that's just on the ground floor. It's a lot of work started, and once you start, there's no stopping. So it's been a lot sort of involvement with that. I've been sort of quietly in the background putting together these knives, which I've talked about weeks ago. They'll be my sort of economical range of chef knives. But before I launch them, I want to make sure I got sort of 40 or 50 ready, so so they can be sold sort of immediately. So yeah, in the background, just sort of working on them. This folding knife as well has taken a bit of a turn. There's now going to be 2 options available when the folding knife is coming, which probably is still probably a month or so away. But these are super low cost folding knives, sort of gentleman's knives. They're not aggressive in any way. They're very sort of classic, sort of almost penknife style, but there's a bit more sort of meat to them than a penknife. But there's going to be 2 options with regards to handle materials, and they're both pretty cool. So I'm going to keep that under my hat for a little bit.
Do you have a name for this knife?
I do. The H. And that's because that was my grandfather's sort of nickname. His name was Harry, but people called him H. And he gave me my first knife when I was a kid. And this is a sort of modern version of that knife.
Perfect.
So you can imagine that sort of 2-inch little ivory handled sort of pen knife. I've taken that design and sort of made it a bit sort of beefier. And yeah, kept the same sort of shape and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a real sort of pocket knife that you can keep with you at all times. That's the idea of it. So yeah, we're still probably a month, 6 weeks away from them being ready to be sold. But yeah, they're looking good. I'm really pleased with the 2 finishes that I've got on them now. So
really cool. That's an excellent name. Do you think maybe you'd consider giving the listeners of Knife Talk the first shot at buying one?
Believe me, when they're finished, anybody can buy one.
Oh, okay. I just thought maybe you could do a little bit of a... I know, you probably already sold them. You already sold them already.
No, I haven't. I haven't sold any yet. I'm making sure they're finished before I'm selling any now.
When he says Friday, he means Wednesday, guys. So just remember.
Yeah, that was for the a knife a few weeks ago. And actually, I'm working on the third sort of job that I've got on at the moment is actually there's four because I've got a bunch of restaurant stuff as well. But the space knife, which I've talked about for a few weeks, it's been on hold for 4 or 5 days. I haven't really touched it, but I'll be back to that again tomorrow. I'm hoping to get that finished for next weekend too. Yeah, so it's just been lots and lots of stuff going on. So my wife and I yesterday spent the day digging out like 25 square meters of garden and filling it with bark and stuff ready for like a kids play area. So when we go over to the new house, we can take the kids can have something to do whilst we're sort of speaking with the builders, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just been a week of lots and lots of stuff going on. My feet hasn't touched the ground really, it's been a crazy one, but it's all good. Summer's coming. It's all good. I do now have 1,200 square foot of 200-year-old oak for handles, for future handles.
Dang.
Which
Nice.
is quite nice.
I love it.
So that could literally do thousands upon thousands of knives. So I'll make sure I pick out the best stuff.
Now, another, what you should do is, I know that you're building a pub.
Yeah.
Maybe that wood should be saved for the pub knives when you start to do pub knives.
What's a pub knife?
I don't know.
What kind of pubs are you going to where you need
I
a
don't
knife?
know.
That's the big
You gotta
question.
knock someone over the head,
You guys are going to be doing food there, right?
This isn't going to be a pub.
Like the little stick
This
knife.
isn't a pub for the public. This is our little sort of pub, and for our neighbours and family, friends, that kind of thing. So, yeah. So I'm sure I'll have lots to talk about that in the future. It was literally a decision made yesterday where my wife said, "Well, actually, I don't need my office to be there. Why don't you have that as a pub?" And I'm like, "Okay."
Fuck
Before
me,
she changed her mind.
Oh my God, unbelievable, Lockwood. Yeah, I mean, it's like my wife. She would say, "All right, you can have that dresser drawer. That's fine. A little bit, half of that dresser drawer is yours." Okay.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We've got a bit of space, so yeah, I'm just very lucky. So I'm looking forward to it.
Chill.
But that's been my week, like completely up in the air, doing one thing one day, another thing the next. I haven't really managed to get into anything, but it's a lot achieved. It's been good. Shall we get into the show?
Let's do it.
Talk is sponsored by Even Heat, the manufacturers of the finest heat treating ovens available. Find your next oven at evenheat-kiln.com. To the chopper!
Even Heats, the best kilns out there. That's why we all use them. And you can get your hands on one too at a discount. You can get $75 off one and free shipping in the US by choosing yours at Soul Ceramics. If you go to knifetalk.net/heat, that'll take you automatically to the Soul Ceramics site with all the discounts applied at checkout. And you'll be able to, pick the exact oven that you want with regards to the controller and the size. They've got them all in stock. When you go to checkout, it'll apply that discount for you. So yeah, knifetalk.net/heat, and make sure you're getting your Even Heat from Soul Ceramics.
And when you are looking to get your discount, don't DM us saying, "How do you get the discount?" Just press rewind and listen to the goddamn what Craig said again.
Yeah.
You have to-
knifetalk.net/heat. It'll sort it out for you. We've done all the heavy lifting in the background. It's ready for you.
Right.
There we go. Mareko, do you want to introduce?
Okay, that's my cue. I didn't know. We used to have the jingle that led into the questions.
Oh,
I
good
didn't know if
point.
that was going to happen or not. All right. This is the part of the show. It's called Hey Man, Can I Ask You a Question? Where you send in questions, your dilemmas, your beefs. We talk about them. We try to answer. We try to help or give you a hard time. So I'm going to kick it off with this first one. It's Luca Norian. It says, "Hey dudes, I was wondering if you guys could talk about a good way to make a small knife forging setup for under $200. I'm 18 years old and was with basically no tools. I've been a knife enthusiast for as long as I can remember, and this is always something I've wanted to do, but I but felt like money was stopping me. Is there any way for me to build a bare bones workshop where I'd still be learning skills that are scalable for when I have more money and improve my setup? I just discovered your podcast and was cracking up while listening to it in the car. You guys are great. Hope you're all doing well. Thanks. Thank you for the kind words. What do you guys think?
Welcome aboard. And no, that's you. This is like, I'll tell you. I used to be such a huge fishing maniac. I loved fishing, and I would always buy these cheap. Like, I got into fly fishing, I bought the cheap setup, and the guy said to me, you'll regret this decision," and I did. You can't cheap out in this situation, you know.
What I would say though, for if you're looking for, under $200, and we understand it can be super expensive to get everything you need. But I mean, you say, I want to jump straight into a forging setup. I'd say $200, you would be able to get a 1x30 grinder, and some people are making amazing stuff with these little 1x30s. You could probably get yourself one of those little devil forges then as well for heat treating. Probably wouldn't get hot enough for forging, or it would certainly take you a lot of time, and you still wouldn't have the anvil and all the rest of it. But if you got yourself a little the devil forge, I think they're about $120, $150. You'd still have the money then to get yourself a little 1x30. And you could make stock removal knives and heat treat them yourselves. That's, there's a hell of a lot to learn just by doing that. And I mean, once you've mastered, grinding, that kind of thing, then maybe consider stepping up then into forging your blades. But that's probably not a bad little setup for under $200.
I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. I always try to steer people away from forging, at least initially, because I believe that a properly ground knife is more important than a forged knife, because you can easily blast through and screw up the steel in overheating the material as you're forging and trying to work it and do all that kind of stuff. And if you're trying to really make a knife, then start with stock removal. I mean, I obviously have no problem. That's how I got started. I have no problem with stock removal. I forge everything now, but I really I guess give credit to my stock removal experience for being as good of a knife maker as I am now, because the grinding is essential, a super essential, foundational skill. And so I would definitely get a grinder, and get yourself a little material. You could probably get by with a hand drill and some drill bits. And at that point, you could probably still afford for less than $200 to send a knife out to be heat treated. But that adds up really quick. You could do the forging setup, but that was super tricky to do that by eye, especially if you're just starting. And I think if you can afford a heat treating kiln eventually, obviously not right now, but that I would go from doing it, heat treating or sending stuff out to be heat treated, to heat treating in my own shop with a heat treating kiln, as quickly as I could. But trying to do the forge thing in between, like I just said, like I was working on a knife that just was not properly heat treated, but it was a knife that I made fucking 4 or 5 years ago, and I think more than anything, it was just because of lack of understanding of heat treatment processes. And so as you're learning, freaking get yourself Laren's book along with your grinder and your materials, and send stuff out to be heat treat and practice your grinding. I think, to me, that is super, super, super important compared to forging.
Yeah. I've just done
forging is like a fun aesthetic thing to come later.
Yeah.
But
I've just done a very quick Google, and Harbor Freight have the 1x30 grinders in for $50, and Devil Forge, they have a little one gas burner forge for $161. So you're there, $211. You got yourself a little forge for heat treating, and you've got yourself a bell sander.
That's still not $200, is it?
$11. Hey, if he's that much into it, I'll send him $11.
Dude, he just no, you won't. You won't send it to him. If money,
everybody's.
You're not sending anybody
I'm not
any
sending
money.
Anybody $11.
Get Megaphone to send him the money. God damn it. These fucking kids. If money isn't your money isn't your problem. Money isn't your problem. You're the problem because you're giving up too easy. $200. Go in the couch and dig up some money. Figure it out. I will say, if you look at old pictures of Alec, and I'm just kidding, Lorian, this is your first time listening to the show, just relax. Alec, Alex Steele had a little forge in his backyard, and he shoved a leaf blower in it. You're going to melt everything you have, which is fine. But I think Mareko is 100% right. I'll give you 2-3 videos to watch in how to make a knife for $100. Michael Trolsky, former alumni of Knife Talk, does the best videos on how to do it inexpensively with the file.
Yep.
XYZ podcast host Aaron Geoff, one of the best YouTube's videos in regards to how to make an inexpensive knife. And Chris Zepp did a video on how to make a $100 knife without even having a forge. So Chris Zepp, Make Everything Shop, go check his video out. I think he just grabbed some things and made it happen for under $100. You can't be, you gotta cough it up, dude. You gotta make it happen. I agree. Don't forge. You're gonna burn everything up.
There we go. Thorough answer there for Luca. Andy Beatty has asked, "Hey guys, I have a question for you. Forgive me if this has been on before, but I work in a cutlery making traditional pocket knives as my full-time job and fiddle around with trying to learn the art on my own at home." He says, "How do you get your hands to not be stained with grease, metal shavings, and other such so your wives will let you actually touch them without making you feel like a mutated monster? Thanks, fellas. Andy."
I'm out. I can't help you. I go hands first. Everything I do is hands first. I can't help you at all.
I mean, it sounds like he's a machinist, isn't he? If he's working in cutlery making?
Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, I have nick on my hand.
There's any way around it.
I get the odd nick on my hand.
Mareko, you have like nice soft hands that I think they're soft. I'm just imagining that they're soft. I'm not imagining anything.
When we hold hands at Blade Show.
I mean, I'm making an assumption that you have clean hands. Don't infer anything else, ladies and gentlemen.
I find that my hands, I get the occasional nick on a grinder, knuckles, that kind of thing. But I'm a nail biter, so my nails are always like really, way too short anyway. But the biggest issue I have normally is just with glue, like glue ups. I'm finding I get glue on my hands, but I've started wearing gloves for that. I don't find that my hands get that beat up unless I'm doing a huge batch of grinding. But I said they're just nicks on knuckles and that kind of thing. If your hands are getting that dirty, I don't know.
I forget to use moisturizer. I know one of our listeners, the hand pick king, Tom McLean, sent me something called Bag Balm or something like that. It's for like the udders of a cow or something. You make them titties nice and soft. But he sent it to me to put on my hands.
Keep them from getting chapped.
Yeah, you wanted to make sure I had the nice soft hands, and I forget to use it in the wintertime. So get yourself some of that, titty cream and soften up them hands.
This show is sponsored by Cow Titty Cream.
Bag Balm. Get yourself some Bag Balm and fix up them hands, and your wife won't throw you out of the bed because you got them rough hands. 10% off with Knife Talk 10.
Andy, you could go treat yourself to a manicure. Sneak out and get a manicure. Don't get your fingernails painted or anything. Just get your hands cleaned up.
I just think keep your space clean, keep your work clean as you go in, and I don't know. I can't see how I would get my hands super dirty because there's never really a need for it then to.
You're out of touch. You're out of touch. That's why.
Out of touch. Okay, Geoff, do you want to take the next one from Iron Gull Knives?
Iron Gull Knives has a question. He says, knives are great, but if you could flip the switch and change the subject of the podcast, what would each of you pick?
A dick joke podcast that just entirely dick jokes for 30, 40 minutes.
God damn, that's a great idea. I fucking love it. That's the Trojan horse. That's the Trojan horse of all podcasts, P.S.
Mm-hmm. I think it probably wouldn't work. This works because the three of us have a common interest, which are obviously knives. We sort of tapped into an audience who, are willing to hear this bullshit every week. I don't know. It's this works for me. This works for me, and hopefully it works for you listeners too.
What do you think, Mareko? If you could do anything other than knives, what would it be?
Maybe food.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cooking, working in restaurants.
I love this podcast. I also love the Full Blast podcast because it's different. And I also really love my old episodes with Nico Tavernisi where we did the Downward Spiral where we would, talk about weird shit. But it made me think about radio shows in general. And I thought would be fun, and maybe we can incorporate it in this podcast, maybe a new bit, is, you know what a hot take is?
So, yeah, you tell us what a hot take is.
All right. A hot take a hot take is in journal. I took this off the internet. In journalism, a hot take is a piece of deliberately provocative commentary that's based almost entirely on shallow moralizing. So in response to a news story, it's usually written on a tight deadline with little research or reporting or even less thought. So basically it's just like a very, not well thought out opinion. And what it is it was a sports talk radio industry term referring to the tactic of a host picking a topic of sports zeitgeist, often one that has no business being discussed because the answer is knowable, making loud, fact-free declarations about the topic and eliciting angry listeners to call in and providing show content.
This whole show is one big hot take. That's basically what it's saying.
Well, it's meant to be it's this kind of like unreasonable. It's an unreasonable opinion. Connecticut is the capital of pizza in the United States. And that's just the way it is.
It's going to get people riled
people
up.
Like, wait, what are you talking about? I live in Indiana. The pizza's pretty good here. No, you're incorrect. So I thought maybe we could do a new bid called Knife Talk Hot Takes. Oh, you're the king. I love that little guy. So like a hot take would be like, Hawaiian pizza is an abomination. So I just thought, and I was, thinking about things like, the Amish shouldn't be allowed to drive on roads because they don't pay taxes. That's a hot take.
Yeah.
It's true. I was in college, I used to get pissed because I'd be stuck behind a horse and buggy and he's just going down the highway. And I thought, these motherfuckers don't pay taxes. They should be on like a goat path or something like that. That's a hot take. So do you guys have any hot takes?
What do you mean they don't pay taxes?
And it could be about knife making. It could be about, anything you want. You have any hot takes off the top of your head that you can think of? It's just like an unreasonable, mildly controversial opinion.
I should never ask a question of our listeners and expect a decent response. Is that a hot take?
What do you mean in regards to naming your pub?
Yeah, Jesus. Some of those responses were the worst names in the world. I'd never visit a pub with any of these names.
That's an honest hot take.
You
didn't like Lockwood's Libations and Leisure?
It's a bit wordy, isn't it? Let's face it, it's a bit wordy.
It's funny. The hot take is the hot take is funny because it was designed It's basically like, when we do, hey man, can I ask you a question? Or we say to the listeners, send us your questions. It's to get them into it. So a hot take was designed in radio to get people to just be pissed. So like, your favorite baseball team, our pitcher sucks. Or, just unreason for nothing other than just to get people to, get on the phone. Hot takes where it's at. And if you, the listener, want to send us a hot take, I'll read them off. And you just DM us. Do we have the DM jingle around?
Contact us via DM at Knife Talk on Instagram. It's that easy.
So DM us your hot takes, and it should be one sentence. Here's a hot take. LOL is not punctuation.
Wait there.
I like that thing at the end, that little...
Wow.
Nah,
Did you produce that, Craig?
No.
that's some
you didn't.
royalty-free music, ladies and germs, because hot take. We don't want to pay for anything. So send us in your hot takes. And here's a hot take. LOL is not punctuation. For some reason, people seem to think that, when you write LOL at the end of a sentence, that's punctuation. It is not in punctuation. Yeah. So send us, it should be one sentence. One sentence, two sentences tops. It should be short so we can read them off. DM us your hot takes. It could be about anything, except we're not going to be, slamming. For every time I ask for beef or something like that, somebody has something to say about a particular person. We're not going to be blasting people. Thank you very much. So here's your hot take. Give us, tell us what's grinding. It's what's grinding your gears, but keep it down to two sentences. Give us your Knife Talk hot takes.
Nice.
I got a
Go
hot
ahead.
take. Forging is not better than stock removal.
That's a hot take.
Ooh.
That's a hot take. And then hopefully, the hot takes will get us to talk about it. That's a great hot take. You didn't play that long.
Wow.
And Damascus Dave, don't send the hot take. I don't, just because Greg puts it in jingles doesn't mean we should. Don't fucking write that to me, you little bastard, you.
Combat Abrasives
Okay.
make the world's best abrasive belts for knife makers. Available in any size and at unbelievable prices. Go take a look at combatabrasives.com and get 15% off with the promo code KNIFETALK15. Do it now!
15% off. Why wouldn't you? Combatabrasives.com. Use
Booyah.
Knife Talk 15. Okay, Overton Forge has sent in a question. Hey fellas, as always, great work on the show. It makes Mondays that much more bearable. I'm sure all of you guys started with regular 9-to-5 full-time jobs before you became full-time makers. My question is, at what point did you decide to make the decision to go from part-time as a hobby to full-time as a career in knife making? Was there a pivotal moment when you took the leap and just went for it, or did you just wait until your knife making income could take the place of your regular 9-to-5? Thanks for the advice, and tell Jeff it's definitely pronounced IKEA.
It's not IKEA. It's not IKEA. Oh, congratulations, Overton Forge is either on or will be on Forge and Fire, and he makes great knife vices. So we're with you, Overton Forge.
Nice.
And it is not IKEA, it is IKEA. Because
Ikea.
the people from the hot take, it's pronounced IKEA.
So, yeah, when did you make that point of becoming a full-time maker? Was it a gradual thing? Let's start with Mareko.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of touched on this before, but my quick and easy thing is what was I doing? I was working in a bakery, prepping and making food, washing dishes when I started on my knife making. Or I guess this is after Bob. I went back in the restaurants, and then I wanted to get back in the knife making, and I was trying to figure it out. And so at that time, before I was able to finally make that jump and making knives on my own, I was working in a bakery, in a restaurant, doing stuff there. And I was single. I didn't have any responsibilities except for paying my rent and paying my car insurance, and that was it. And so, it didn't take much for me to replace my restaurant working income with the knife making income. If I were doing it now with a family and a lot more responsibilities, a lot more bills, I'd have to build up a buffer. I would have to feel really confident in my ability to sell whatever is being made, whether it's direct to customer or if it's to a retailer. Yeah, I'd have to feel really confident in the ability to be able to sell that stuff, because I mean, that's like you're literally quitting whatever 9 to 5 you got to take the jump. And if you're not moving stuff, you're not going to be making money and you're not going to be able to pay bills. And if you're married and you got a kid, it'll be amazing to see how long your wife wants to stay with you if you decide you wanted to quit this great 9 to 5 to start making knives and bringing home nothing. So yeah, I would say you really got to look into it, and not just what you could be making, but all the taxes, fees, and everything that go into it. Like, you're taxed very differently when you're self-employed, and so yeah, there's a lot that goes into
and there's no sort
that you should
of
look
playbook
into.
for this, because the three of us have very different sort of entrances into how we do it, and everybody's circumstances are completely different. For me, it was more of a sort of compulsion, really. So at the time, back in Wales, I owned like a co-working studio kind of thing, and I was doing sort of knives on the side, and that became more and more of what I wanted to be doing. But I still had this sort of residual income from this business, which was my sort of insurance, I suppose. But there's no line in the sand where when I get to that point, I'm going to become a full-time maker. Because, sometimes I won't get an order for weeks, and sometimes I get multiple orders a day. It's, it's not an easy decision to make. So, yeah, I mean, it depends what your responsibilities are and all those kinds of things. And I wouldn't really want to be advising anybody.
The feast or famine element is real for sure.
I wouldn't want to be advising people to, go make that jump, because I don't know their situation, unfortunately.
I think that there's something that's always missing with a lot of people, and a lot of it's how hungry you are. I think that for me, I'd worked for a couple metal shops, and then after my last metal shop, I was given the opportunity to have a slight partnership with this fine cabinetry company. And I thought, I was encouraged to do it, thought it would be fun. I knew this person, and they made promises, and it blew up. I mean, I got laid off because they didn't realize I was like, I'm not being paid under the table, and everything was negotiated. And then all of a sudden, just like, we can't keep you on anymore. It's too expensive. It's too expensive because of the income tax and this, that, and the other thing. And I was laid off, and it was really, it was embarrassing. It made me feel bad about myself. And I have a little child and my wife, and my wife said, we need more help with the kid, and she was very young, and this is a great opportunity for you, and make sculpture again, and figure something out. And I was actually doing odd railing jobs with my friend John Ledford, and we were doing little things and making sculpture. And then we started teaching classes, and one of the classes that were taught was by Matt Paul, and he started making knives, and I started fiddling around, and then I posted a picture, and someone said, I'll buy that. And it was I was hungry enough to say, I got to do something. And the timing was right. I mean, I wish it didn't happen. But at the same time, it was like, if it didn't happen, and if I wasn't hungry enough to I want to make money, I want to figure something out, but also now we need childcare and stuff like that. It happened because it had to happen. But I think that a lot of times the decision to be made is, how hungry are you? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to see this through, or are you going to make excuses? Like, I'm sorry to pick on the first guy saying how money's always been in the way. I don't think that's a good enough reason for not doing something. I think that you have to, it's you either going to do it or you're not going to do it, but without making excuses. And it's like Craig says, you don't want to possibly tell someone to do it if they don't have it within them. I don't think everybody's cut out to be independent company or a leader or a worker. I think that some people don't realize how hard it is to be in business by yourself. I think people think it's, you know, the American dream, and we figure they'll figure it all out, and we just, you know, I'm just going to work hard and that's going to be enough. And I don't think they realize how hard it is.
Yeah, it's not good enough just to be, you know, a good maker. You need to be good at marketing. You need to be, you know, do accounting, all these kinds of things. Or if you don't, you need somebody there to support you, to help you with these things, because they can easily get on top of you and take just as much time as the actual making, which is the cool stuff you want to be doing.
If I didn't have to pay all the people I have to pay, accountants and payroll companies and my partner and insurance and rent and all this bullshit, I'd do pretty well. You know, I would be able to like really like, you know, think about some things. But it's like, you know, being in business is not it's not all, what is it? High fives and lightning bolts. I don't know how hand jobs got involved, but apparently hand jobs got involved.
I think we answered that quite well. I think we did.
Whatever. That's a hot take. That was a long hot take.
Mitch Cochran asks, hey guys, question and a dilemma. I'm just starting out and want to make sure I'm headed in the right direction. Would do a knife making course at the drop of a hat, but there's nothing of the sorts where I am in New Zealand, which is close to me. Do you recommend any online course that delves deep into the entire process? I've hit up all the major YouTubers, and I know it takes a lot of time to get good, but I just want to make sure I'm practicing good technique. Thanks and love the show. And he also says, P.S. Jeff, you crack me up, brother. Mitch, what are you talking about, Mitch?
Thanks, Mitch. That's not a hot take. That's a real take.
Mitch is off his head. He hasn't got a clue what he's talking
That's
about.
a hot take, you bastard, you.
Okay, so courses. The Jason Knight one is an obvious one.
Perfect.
Which is just done so well. And now there's now season 2 with Steve
3.
Schwartz. 3, really? Right.
There's
okay.
3, yeah.
There's 3 now. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a good start if you haven't already hit them. And they're very good value for money, too. Very good value. Yeah. But I think you make a good point. You've said, you hit up all the major YouTube channels and all the rest of it. But you want to make sure you're practicing good technique. That's probably a good start. Not to just think, okay, I've seen the videos, I know what I'm doing now. You seem to have your head screwed on. Apart from the Jeff thing.
How dare you? 2 times in one. That's double jeopardy right there.
What else have you guys got apart from the Jason Knight's? What's it called? Forged.
The Forged series.
The Forged series.
And P.S. He usually at any kind of like holiday or something like that, he'll put on extreme discount.
Yeah.
So I have all 3, and they're that's right. They were in he put them up. He put the first one up at extreme discount, and then he put the other 2 at extreme discount. I was like, I'm buying these, and I think that Jason is awesome, and I also love Steve Schwarzer, so I'm in.
Yeah, I think he also just finished filming some stuff with Andy Wozniak of Colony Forge. So
Definitely good, another good dude.
Yeah, super talented guy. That should be an interesting one.
The first,
I mean,
sorry,
I was just gonna say, I don't know how hard it is to get over to Australia from New Zealand, or how expensive it is and whatnot. But those guys over there are teaching classes all the time, kind of in the southeastern side corner of Australia. Lots and lots of classes happening there.
Yeah, Mert and Kev, they're teaching classes, I think.
Jamie
Bishop,
yeah.
That's right. Saucy.
Yeah.
Good old Saucy.
Saucy.
If you want a good technique video, I was talking to Pat Quinn from the Center for Mental Arts, and he's starting to do what he calls the digital diaries. Digital notebook. Digital notebook. And it's supposed to be along the lines of when you've taken class at the Center for Mental Arts. It's like a reminder. But I'm under the impression that the forging itself, the intricacy of the notes of the forging is really the way you want to go in regards to if you ever take a class. A lot of times you think you know what happened, but you don't really see what happened. And you always miss these little moments. And this is to make sure that you get the proper technique. And he's got a tong one out that's supposed to be awesome. And I would definitely suggest for forging. And you could say, well, I don't want to make tongs. I want to make, whatever. making the good forging videos, especially whatever's Pat's doing, is going to give you so much more information in regards to technique and stuff. The other thing is the first Forge series with Jason Knight, he really goes deep into how to forge a knife. So it's really like, it's step by step on how to make the first season is the elemental knife, and it's a really, really good series in terms of proper technique and how to do it and stuff like that. But there, as Pat Quinn says, there's no substitute for classes. So
cool.
Yeah.
Good. I'm sure we got lots of listeners in New Zealand as well. So if anybody has anything sort of local for Mitch, he is Mitch Cochran on Instagram. Message him. Go and do it. One thing you are going to need if you're taking classes, and you'd obviously want to up your game. If you're going to up your game, you're going to need a very good grinder. It doesn't need to be expensive. It just needs to be a very good grinder, and we can help you out. Tell them about it. Jeff, tell them about it.
The Broadbeck Ironworks sells an awesome grinders, 2x72 grinder. This is a beauty. The thing is a beauty. I have 3 grinders in my shop. This is my number 1 grinder. It's well built. It's knife makers who designed a grinder for other knife makers. The attachments are excellent, and they're also very user friendly in regards to if you have a different, chassis for a different machine, they keep the attachments so you could just buy their attachments, which are definitely worth it. It goes horizontally, vertically. Definitely don't skimp. Get the VFD. You'll thank me later. And if you go to broadbeckironworks.com, you put in Knife Talk 10, you're going to get 10% off. And the shipping is included, so they're not going to nickel and dime you. You're going to put it together, but you're going to do a great job. So go get to your Broadbeck Ironworks grinder, and then put in Knife Talk 10 and tell them I say hello. I'm with you.
Nice. Do we have any user tips this week, Jeff?
We do, actually. We have... I know you didn't ask, and the first one comes from, one comes from our friend Moonshine Metalworks. Hey, cuties, I know you didn't ask, but what you should do, you should listen to the latest Full Blast podcast with Mareko, because it's really bloody good. He's much better when he's awake. So we're going to have to talk about that at some point. We're going to have to figure something out. Also, you complained the other day about people not knowing how to use ceramic rods or steels for keeping knives sharp and copying over the flamboyant chefs who wave them all over the place. Is there a video, chef, or maker that you can point to people for an example of how to do it properly? If not, maybe Craig should do a video on it. So if you've watched those cartoonies where Tom the cat is getting ready for Thanksgiving and he goes with the steel, or Uncle Asshole is preparing for the big dinner, and they're fooling around. People are doing a bad job of that.
Yeah, it looks flamboyant, but I'm not going to do a video on that. There's going to be better people out there. Listener challenge. Let's see some videos of you using basically hone-in rods, I suppose. Getting those final edges nice and sharp. It'd be good to see some of them, because like you said, all the videos that you see, even sort of professional chefs, there's a nasty one with Gordon Ramsay doing it, and he's just tearing this knife across this steel.
It's like he's only doing 1 inch of the knife.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. And the reason why is because these goddamn cooks don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't, the honing rod is to align the wire edge.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw Bob Kramer years ago at this event with Henkel. And he was explaining that if you ever rub your knife with a rag and you catch the knife, that nick isn't necessarily a nick, but it could be the wire edge. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to feel the wire edge and then use the steel against to take that curl out. If you go back and forth over the curl, you're just going to be pushing that curl down farther. But these motherfuckers, they fool around like a goddamn Salt Bay once again. He's humping the meat. He's ruining out of the plastic knife.
Bob did do a video with in concert with Henkel's when he first had his line come out. where he's kind of demonstrating good sharpening and honing techniques. I don't know if it's still out there, but since he still has a deal with them, I wouldn't be surprised that it's still out there. But if you just look up Bob Kramer sharpening,
It's a Sur La Table
Bob Kramer
video.
honing.
I actually use it.
Is it
It's Sur La Table.
Okay.
And I actually send people to that one because it's like, in my opinion, especially in Steve. Now, Steve, there's so many people doing this, and they're still doing these videos. Why not just, if you found the best, why not you just send them to him? That's the same reason why I really don't do any instructional videos, especially like I send people to Nick Wheeler. You know, Nick Wheeler, people want to know, you should do a video on using it. No, fuck you. I'm not doing any videos. Why would I muddy the waters when the pros do it the best? So I send people to Nick Wheeler. I send people to Aaron Goff and Michael Trolsky, and then I send them to Bob Kramer for sharpening and be done with it. We don't need to muddy the waters.
Yeah. Damn straight.
Here.
Also, quick shout out to Moonshine Metalworks and Alex Pohl. They just slammed out a bunch of axes in partnership with Uni, who's a pizza oven manufacturer, I think based out of Sweden. Those things are killer. Have you guys
Have we
seen
got you a
those?
pizza oven
I
yet,
know, I think
Mareko? We do this every
This is
week
a
now.
different company.
I'm
We
just
need to
saying.
get him a pizza oven, ladies and germs. Boy,
I want a pizza oven in the shop. Making
the
pizza
shop?
and forging blades.
That's some
Yeah.
quality content for them right there.
God, you got one guy in this podcast got a pizza oven in the shop. The other one's got a pub in the shop. I got nothing. I barely have heat.
You got the sex dungeon.
Well, that's just,
I think we all need to message Uni Pizzas and tell him that Mareko would make a great customer because he'd be using his ultra slick knives to cut these pizzas and he'd have flames in the background. It would be awesome for them.
I'll make a monster mezzalina.
And here's a hot
Yeah.
take. Mareko. Hot take is Mareko deserved to win the pizza challenge without question. There is no controversy whatsoever. He deserved to win that contest that we had a while ago. Deserved.
No,
That's
I
the
didn't,
hot
Jeff.
take.
I did not.
Because I'm not saying it's hot take because
Oh, that's your hot take?
because
Because you
pub.
disagree.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. You're a professional pizza man. I think Pub Time Lockwood. He's the one who thinks it's a hot take.
You two got too friendly on this podcast this week. You're trying to push me out. I know what's going
No,
on.
Come on, man. This is the highlight of the week.
Okay, let's move on. Andy Booth. Hi all, love the podcast. I handed in my angle grinder card today, what's listening, and built a wall mount for my portaband. Question for the podcast. When starting out, how did you settle on a specific design style for your knives? I see lots of styles that I really like, and as a beginner, find myself just wanting to make all sorts of knives. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, I mean, how do you come up with your own sort of unique design? Mine is all about sort of simplicity, really. There's nothing too complicated about my knives, and it's that sort of simplicity that is sort of carried through, you know, the branding and everything else. I like that sort of clean, clear design, and that's what I like about knives too. But I mean, the three of us have very different styles. So, Mareko, your style. I mean, you talked about this on the podcast this week, but.
Yeah.
You know, how did you come up with that style? And you did mention, you know, wanted to start folding knives to begin with. So how did you then sort of bring that down to what you currently have?
Yeah.
Are you there?
We lost him.
That I tell you, that's a radio tease for Jeff's podcast.
We lost him.
Just like
that
you said
was
on
the
Jeff's
real radio
podcast.
tease. When I was, here's what I did. Here's the secret to the universe.
Jeff, okay, your design. What why that design? What
Well,
appeals
I mean,
to you? And
it's interesting because I've talked to so many different makers, and one of them was Mert Tansu, and he said something was very interesting, that a lot of people, when they first start in, they have a baseline of what they're used to, and that's what I did. I was used to the knives that I used from culinary school, and they were not, anything I would really recommend now. And I started to do what I liked about them, and then next thing you know, I constantly tried to do innovations evolutions based off of the first design. And my knives from 6 years ago to now, it's a different ball game, and that's what makes it more interesting. So I think the most sincere, and I've said this a million times, but the most sincere thing you can do is to make small innovations based on what you're currently doing. Well, what would you do a little different? Let's try it a little different. Let's try this different. Every part of my knives now have been changed to a certain degree, and I like that. And I can see where things start from and then how they progress. And I think it's important to I think that you'll find that they'll change based on many different factors, but a lot of it's based on use, what you like about it based on use. So
Yeah.
Are you there, Mareko?
In and out, I think. In and out.
I can't hear a thing.
No. Okay. Do you want to take the next one then, Jeff, from Dylan?
Okay. Dylan Myrick. Boys, love the show. It's fucking hilarious. And the knowledge. Oh, the knowledge. Been making knives for about 3 years now, and when life allows it, and going towards full time because plumbing sucks. I like to space out my big purchases, and I'm close to paying off my grinder. So the question is, if you are still new and buying your first big tools, would you buy a heat treating oven or a press? I use 1080, 1084, and 80 CRV2, which I've been using to forge for heat treatment, more accurate / quality heat treatment, or squishing power. Love the show. Cheers. So if you were starting out, what would be your big purchase?
I think the biggest game changer for me has been being able to get the heat treat right. Because if that's not right, no matter how good everything else is, you're not having a quality knife. But Dylan is obviously forging, and he's doing something very different to me. But yeah, even if whether you're forging, whatever you're doing, if that heat treat isn't right, it's a big problem. So to me, I'd say a heat treat oven is probably after grinder the next big purchase, without a doubt.
It's very interesting because it depends on what your goal is. Like, I got an oven before I got my tire hammer, for the reason is my little shop was in a neighborhood, and I just didn't want my neighbors to kill me, and I just thought it wasn't going to work. And I thought, well, I also wasn't in the mood to be making, if you have a press and stuff like that, you can do other things besides making heat treating knives. You have the ability to, forge, like my friends, like Cliff and John make the most beautiful hammers and axes and stuff. And they built their forges and their hammers before, they built their presses before having a heat treating oven. And I know that they just recently got an even heat, and they were they were heat treating out of a forge for years. And then they made the decision to get the even heat. But I would agree with Craig in this. And what I did was I went for the even heat first, and then once I got a space where I could make some noise, I had a tire hammer built that I wish I never got built.
Okay, that's cool. One thing that you are going to need is supplies. So Texas Farrier Supply, they supply all sorts of stuff, obviously for farriers, but they've got a blade making part as well for knife makers. Amazing stuff, quality stuff, a really good shipping, and we can get 10% off with Knife Talk 10. So TexasFarrierSupply.com, use Knife Talk 10 to get 10% off, and they've got everything you need for any sort of knife maker there. But the main thing that they sell, not the main thing, but certainly for me, something that I use for every single knife, is Indasa sandpaper, the Rhino Wet. Texas Farrier Supply sell that, and this stuff is just the best. It saves you time, saves you money. The best sandpaper out there. It's why everybody uses it. If you aren't, you're missing a trick. Head on over to TexasFarrierSupply.com, Knife Talk 10, and fill up your basket with Indasa Rhino Wet.
They sent me a nice T-shirt, buttery soft.
Nice. Who did, Indasa or Texas Farrier
No,
Supply?
not Indasa.
Right.
It was Texas Farrier Supply. Nice. Thank you, Evan.
Nice. Mareko, you're back.
Yeah.
And enthusiastic as ever.
Fucking internet. fucking computer, fucking internet.
Well, that's
I
not
love
a
my
full hot
Indasa.
take. Let's have a hot take.
Um, I don't have a hot take.
Ugh. Here's a hot take. I hate your jingles, you fuck. I've always hated your jingles.
Okay, Baltic Blades. Question. Hand sanding sucks. We just gave you the solution to that with Indasa Rhinoet. But how do you do less of it, and what do you use? Disc sander with what progressions? High grit belts, gator belts, or do you just keep your head down and doing the work? Indasa Rhinoet. Honestly, it is that much of a game changer. Probably cut down my hand sanding time by at least 50%. If you're not using it, you will definitely thank us for trying it. But apart from that, apart from using the best stuff you can get your hands on, it's unfortunately getting your head down and doing the work.
Also depends on the steel you're using. Like, some steels are much easier to hand sand than others.
Oh, yeah.
By like a mile.
For sure. I mean, with these knives I've been working on, I just did that on like a bunch of hand sanding, and yeah, there's really isn't much of a substitute. I will say, and I've mentioned this before, but I found that the abrasive cuts more. Yeah, you get more work out of each piece of sandpaper, by starting with a light pressure, and then as it kind of loses its cutability, start pushing harder and harder, and you get more work out of it. So you start light and then go hard later, versus starting out hard, and really putting a lot of pressure on the sandpaper right off the bat. You're crushing right through that abrasive, versus getting some of that cutting action from light pressure, and then as it feels like it's not cutting as well as it should, you keep adding more and more pressure. And I also think getting to as high of a finish as you can, like on my S grind blades, like I can't use a disc grinder. I have to do everything off the machine. I'm going straight from the machine to hand sanding. So the higher the grit I can take it to before I start hand sanding, the better. I've been taking my blades up to like 400 before I actually pull them off now. And I used, 6 square inches of 220 on each side of the knife after coming off the machine. Like, it didn't take very much. And then I went from the 220 to 400, 600, 800. And actually, here's another tip from earlier. We mentioned Combat. Combat sells this kind of like a non-woven Scotch-Brite, and they have it in different kind of abrasive qualities. And the gray is really nice to follow your hand. So say you like hand and you're pulling strokes at like 800 grit or even 600. You pull strokes with that gray non-woven abrasive afterward, and you get a really, really nice satin finish.
You're not talking about a belt. You're talking about like pieces.
No, yeah, I'm talking like you can get. They sell them in like 8.5 by 11 or whatever, 9 by 11 sheets. Basically the same size as sandpaper, and I just trim them down to use on my hand sanding stick, and it's awesome.
Nice. Minuteman EDC. Do you want to take that one, Jeff?
Yes. Hey, cuties. I have a question. I recently got some blocks for handles, and they aren't stabilized. So should I soak them in something like mineral oil to seal them, or Minwax wood hardener, or something equivalent to it? Thanks for the tips and tricks. Love the show.
He doesn't say what wood it is. He just says some blocks. And not all wood can be stabilized. Some of it you literally are just wasting your time. Really super hard sort of African woods like ebony and that kind of thing, they're better off not stabilized, because you are literally wasting your time. A finish of oil or wax would be lovely on that, but the actual stabilizing, no need. So consider what the wood is really, because each wood will finish slightly differently. There's some woods that are far better just being waxed, as we say, some stabilized. So without knowing really what those blocks are, it's hard to give any sort of recommendations or advice really. But what have you guys got?
What do you got, Jeff?
I mean, the interesting thing is wood stabilizes differently based on the kind. I've had like a walnut burl that hardly takes any stabilizing up as opposed to like figured walnut. It all is different, based on how much air is in that wood. You can send it out. I know a lot of people send their wood blocks out just for safety's sake. K&G is the gold standard in the United States, at least from what I understand. I think that I'm starting to be against I like less and less boiled linseed oil and mineral spirits and stuff like that. So, some people do that where they mix BLO or they do mineral spirits with mineral oil, because the mineral spirits, I guess, like open up. Maybe you guys know there's an osmosis thing going on or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Never mind. But I mean, with
Just making
painting,
shit up.
hot take. That's a hot take right there. A hot take is because when you're painting oil, you use the mineral spirits and kind of like loose. Fuck this whole part. Never mind. I say, send your wood out. Or this is a sponsor of the Full Blast podcast. Axe Wax has been amazing, and especially if you're making culinary knives and you don't want that icky, petroleum shit on there, go get yourself some Axe Wax. Full Blast 10 for 10% off. That was an off the road.
That took
ad.
a turn. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
All right.
Any
Nothing
more
to be
tips, or should we just carry on with a couple more questions and call it a day?
well, you know what I do have is I do have some dilemmas.
Things that make you go,
You're good on the button today, Craig. You're always good. This one comes from Dewclaw Knives. So if you want to send your dilemmas or your ramblings of the listener, that's what I have written down here. Dilemmas and ramblings of the listener. This one comes from Dewclaw Knives. I've got a dilemma. Recently, I got a large batch of Nitro V back from a reputable heat treating company. Every third blade has a crack in the spine where they used a torch to straighten them. How would you expect this situation to be handled, or would you just eat the cost? Note, they have agreed to possibly give me credit for the next batch on what they paid them. I've heard this shit before, where they're like,
crazy.
you send your knives out, you got them all ready to go, and you send them to the heat treater, and then all of a sudden you get a pile of them, they're just unusable. You got to eat that.
It's a difficult one. I'm always of the sort of mind of, well, lesson learned, never use them again. If I'm getting stung by a company like that. But if you just invested a fair bit as well, all the work is done, and then everything's gone down the drain. Oh, that sucks. Really sucks. There's not much you can do, I suppose. They've offered you a credit for the next one, but you need to consider whether it's worth using them again, I suppose.
Yeah. Christ. Yeah, that's our guy Titanelli down in New Orleans too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge. I'd be fucking pissed, honestly, because the amount of work. I mean, I'm gonna guess he's not getting these laser cut or hydro cut, so he's probably doing all the stock removal and profiling, and probably even some primary grinding before he even sends them. So he's probably got at least like an hour's worth of work, maybe more, in each knife before he sends them out, and for every third one to come back cracked like that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's definitely unreasonable. If they don't, the credits kind of maybe makes you feel good, but honestly, like, they're kind of fucking you, because that knife, once it gets back to you, you turn around, finish it out. That's, I think Ty's stuff is around like $500 to $800 a knife. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk that's lost. Potential, yeah. And so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Do what Craig said. Say fuck them and start thinking about how you can start heat treating your own damn knives.
I think Aaron has having the same problems with. Aaron Geoff is.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hasn't have like strokes every few minutes, because he's sending stuff. He sent so much stuff out, and it just doesn't come back to the standard that he wanted. He's got a pile of shit that
His
just
seems
doesn't
to be
work.
with his coating, his DLC coating. He has a big failure rate with them, that they're not to his. I mean, his standards are extremely exacting, extremely, and if they're not 1,000% perfect, he's not sending them out. So, Yeah, I mean, one thing that Aaron's doing is any sort of opportunity for failure by using a third party, he's trying to rule that out by literally just building his own machines so we can do everything in house. So if your problem is with heat treat, you maybe start thinking it's time to get an oven and doing your own.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
and honestly, like when it comes to the heat treaters, like I understand like sometimes shit goes wrong, but if it's literally 30% of the knives coming back are cracked, like that's pretty fucking unacceptable.
Yeah.
That's terrible. And whoever's running that company, like especially if it's a small company, like almost everything should be coming back perfect. It should be like one in every maybe 50 knives has a little weirdness going on or something like that, but not like every third knife. I don't know. Sorry. That's just still blows me away.
The hardest part is, we've talked about this before, is when you're doing everything yourself, you don't want to have to rely on somebody else when you know you can do it. When you start to talk to people in business, a lot of them will say, well, your time is valuable. Is it worth, this is the cost of doing business. You ever hear that expression? This is the cost of doing business. I had to get inured to the fact that some things just aren't going to be right, but where's your line? Especially when you're a small guy and you're just like trying to save time and energy. Like if he had gotten everything hydro cut and then immediately sent to this guy, the loss on it is probably relatively small. It's not like he's not going to lose, the potential. You're right, Mareko. The potential of what he could have made is lost. But I mean, little things here and there at the end of the world. Like I'll tell you a funny story. I once called, I'm kind of embarrassed about this. When I was doing a big batch of knives with Corby bolts, I may have miscounted the Corby bolts. And I may have called up the company saying that they shorted me 2 Corby bolts. And it's only because I was so short. 2 or 3. I think it was 3. And then they were, I'm so sorry, Mr. Fader, blah, 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 blah. They didn't say Fader, they said Feder or whatever. And then I was like, all right, we're going to send you stuff out right now, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, man, that was some fucking petty shit on my account. Fucking 3 Corby bolts. You throw yourself around for 3 Corby bolts. And then I recounted, and I had miscounted. And they were 100% right, and I was 100% wrong. And I immediately called back to apologize. And then I ordered more Corby bolts with apologizing. I didn't buy just 3. I bought a pile of them. That was unreasonable on my part, but I owned up to it, and sometimes
Are you still buying Corby bolts by 5 at a time?
yeah. They come out of like a little machine. I need 2 more, just 1. Just send me 1 more Corby bolt, please.
1 brass, 1 copper, 2 stainless. That's the order. That's the full order. Yeah.
Sometimes you shouldn't. Sometimes you have to figure out, you can't nickel and dime everything. You lose when you're like counting the pennies. Sometimes you lose. It's just. But at the same time, poor Duclaw.
Please tell me it wasn't Texas Farrier Supply that you were doing that to.
No, it was not Texas Farrier Supply. I would never. No. It was not. Texas Farrier Supply have been great. Actually, anytime I've had any problems, they fix everything quick. Their customer service is really good. But the company that did it, they weren't in the wrong. I miscounted.
Yeah.
I was short 3, and it was my fault.
Idiot.
Well, if you need Corby's, Texas Farrier Supply's got them.
Sorry, Mareko, we cut you off there.
You're good.
One more jingle. Any hot takes? Any hot take jingles?
No, wrong way.
This week, get so mad.
This week, what we got planned? How do you want things to pan out? Let's start with Geoff.
My kid's been cooking a lot, and I'm psyched to see what she's going to cook this week. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. And then some knives are going out the door. I got Tony's going to come down this week, which I'm happy to see him. I haven't seen him in a while. And I'm optimistic, and I'm sending peace and love to my friends in Texas, especially Ben Snur. Just if you watch his stories, they froze the pipes froze in his boss's place, and when they thawed, everything melted, and he had 4 inches of water throughout the house. So I'm sending peace and love to the people of Texas. I am sorry. I am sorry. I had nothing to do with it, but I am sorry.
Mareko, what's the dream for the week?
Dream for the week. A dream for the week is to get in and clean up that bolster on that knife, and hopefully everything goes smooth and it's not too much of a pain in the ass. Hope everything on the Damascus end goes well. Should, like I said, it's pretty straightforward pattern. So fingers crossed on that. My heart goes out to the people down in Texas who are really struggling right now. On top of Ben's story, there's just all kinds of people in really fucking horrible situations. Shit down there, it's terrible. So my heart goes out to all of them. And then, Neil Kamimura's birthday. Neil Kamimura's birthday is coming up on the 23rd, on Tuesday, and Ben Snur's birthday is actually on Friday. So happy birthday to those guys!
Wow, the birthday show.
Yeah. Hey,
is it me?
Just some well wishing to our friends.
Is it me, or does Neil live on like some sort of exotic fruit farm? It is incredible.
Yeah, he just got a hold of a new piece of property, and I think he also just got a shop moved up there, and yeah, it's basically, it used to be a coffee plantation. I think they're actually gonna keep growing coffee. They got all kinds of fruit trees, avocado, banana, mango, all kinds of plants all over the place.
Yeah, orange tree too.
Oranges, yeah, they got everything. They got a couple. Yeah, he's getting it set up. I can't wait to get out there and do some work with him and see the place. And
10% off your Kamimura coffee with Knife Talk 10.
It's crazy. His new shop, he's got barn doors on the front that slide and barn doors on the back that slide open. And the ones that open up on the back look straight out into the Pacific Ocean. We're exactly where the sun sets. It's nuts.
That is something else, that guy.
The dream.
Yeah.
He's something else. Wow. That's the dream right there.
Well, he's worked his fucking ass off for it. So
he deserves every second of it. I'm just freezing my nuts off in this car, holding onto a fucking electric radiator with one hand while we podcast. Fucking balls are freezing up in my throat, for Christ's sakes. I don't have any goddamn orange. The only orange is here, the orange parts of my fucking vice grips.
Okay, I suppose my dream, I should start with sending out my regards to everybody in Texas. Otherwise, I'm the prick who didn't do it out of the three of us. So yeah, obviously thinking of everybody out there who haven't gone some hard times at the moment. My dream for the week is soldiering on, I think. There's no sort of end goal to the stuff I'm currently working on. It's just building up stocks. So yeah, soldiering on, making sure nothing goes wrong, nothing breaks on me, and having the energy to get through this week, because as I said, we've just got a lot going on at the moment. We've got a bloody kids park I need to build this week as well, ready for next weekend. So it's a very varied week I've got coming up again. But that's it. I think that may well be a show. Remember, if you've got any hot takes and you want to hear this jingle again, I think that's my new favorite.
Everyone's your new favorite.
One sentence. It needs to be one sentence. That's all. Send them to a Knife Talk. Are we Knife Talk podcast or just Knife Talk on Instagram?
There are some flea bags who are Knife Talk on Instagram that are not us.
Oh, geez.
There are some flea bags out there that are not us. But
what are we on? I'm trying to think what we are.
We're Knife Talk podcast on Instagram. What does the guy say?
The guy says,
contact us via DM at Knife Talk on Instagram.
Oh, just Knife Talk. Okay.
Let me see here.
We are just Knife Talk then, unless we've had it wrong all this time.
No, it's Knife Talk podcast.
Oh, fuck that guy. What does he
know? We've had it wrong for a long time. Hot take. We don't know. We don't listen.
And with that, that's a show.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
I can't believe you've had it wrong all this time. It's been about a year.
Oh, well, what can you do? What can you do?
There's some people getting really pissed off now, getting DMs asking, their quench
Oh, yeah,
temperature.
there's
I don't know.
Here, I'm going to look up all the different knife talks on Instagram.
Yeah, I was
There's
just
a lot of
looking at
them.
it. It doesn't look like many of them have very many followers. One
No.
has 0.
There is a podcast called Knife Talks as well now.
Oh my god, are you kidding me?
I saw that.
Yeah, but I think the
fuckers.
guy's got issues, to be honest with you. I don't think he's fully mentally stable.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think there's many people listening, to be honest with you.
Fine. Poor guy.
Yeah. That went well. That I think it's a
Oh
shame
my
Mareko's cutting out all the time. But
Yeah, so sorry about that.
It's all right.
no,
This
it's
old ass
still
computer,
listenable.
shitty Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, I think you've got your webcam on as well, Mareko. Maybe that's.
Oh my
one of the
god, I
problems.
did have my webcam.
Put some pants on next week, please.
I mean, I thought you guys liked the helicopter dick.
Whoa. What's helicopter dick?
You don't know what the helicopter.
Of course I don't know. That's what I'm asking. What's a helicopter dick?
Google it.
No, I'm not going to Google it. It's a podcast. I'm not Googling helicopter dick. That's just what I need on my search history.
There's a
can't-
great SNL skit about a helicopter. I'll send it to you. It's pretty.
What
funny.
is it?
There's a URL, there's a website that you can go to, and it's like it sounds like a completely innocuous, simple website that innocent, but it's a full screen video of some guy helicopter in his cock when you press it.
What is he just wiggling his dick around and it's just
Yeah,
swinging around?
I'm gonna text my wife now and find out what it was. 'Cause I sent
Don't
it to her
text
a
your
few
wife
times.
because she's going to think you're a fucking wacko. I guess that's the name of your new pub.
The helicopter dick.
Yeah.
The landing pad.
The landing pad. That's
Oh,
not a bad one. Boy, some of the names people have been putting on for your thing, that is terrible. I wouldn't jump. I didn't do it just because it was like, he's got his own problem. He's like, I could tell you were like, ugh, these are terrible names.
Yeah. I stopped looking in the end because it was just really. But,
So are you gonna have like how do you? I'm just out of curiosity. How are you gonna like decor the place? Is you gonna have like a big? Are you gonna use the wood from the place to make the bar? Or?
Yeah. So we'll have a big, a proper bar. And the walls are stone anyway, so it's perfect, like an old-fashioned pub that you get in the UK.
Nice.
So not much work needs to be done to it, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's the bar. Obviously, I brew my own beer, so there'll be taps there with my own beer on it. And there's
Are
another.
you gonna make
side.
tables and stuff? Like,
Well, so there's the bar area. Then you can go through like this archway into another little area. And what we're going to do, we're going to make like a big booth there. So as you go in, it's just one big booth. So everybody sits around the edges with a big table in the middle. So when we've got people coming over for a drink and game night or whatever it is, we always just go in there. And it's a little like log burner in there as well, so it's nice and snug.
that sounds
It's-
like fun.
It should be
dirt
really
floors?
cool. Stone floors,
Stone,
so
okay.
even better. And it's almost recreating where Amy and I got married. We got married in it was like a forest, but it's a place actually called Forest, and it's acres and acres of a forest, and everybody camps there. And we hired the whole place for the weekend, so everybody came. But there's this little pub on site. And we had our formal ceremony outside in the forest, but then we had the legal ceremony in this tiny little stone pub. So basically, we're recreating that little stone pub.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That sounds like fun.
Does it have
Yeah,
a hearth
I mean-
in it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I mean, it used to be. I think. I mean, it's sort of 200-300 years old again. This house. But at one point, it was used as the piggery, so where they put the pregnant pigs for them to to deliver
the
there.
piggery.
Well, that's the name of the
piggery.
pub then. The piggery.
So, well, the
That's the name of
porchery
the
is
pub
would
right
be
there.
called in French.
the
Quite
piggery
possibly.
is not a bad name.
Quite possibly, but yeah. So I'm lucky. So this was originally going to be my wife's office and her own little sort of snug area, but she then realised that even though the walls are like 2 foot thick of stone, she realised that backs onto what's going to be my workshop. So she doesn't want to be on a call for work and hear a grinder going off or something. So she's now going to have a cabin in the garden, like an outdoor office cabin kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
And this is now going to be our pub. So yeah, I'm super pleased. Super pleased.
I tried building like a kind of like we used to go to used to go to St. John and the Virgin Islands all the time, and I loved how bare bones everything was, and we were going to build something. I was going to build something outside, and I actually built I built like an outdoor table that like butted up against the barbecue grill, and we had chairs and stuff. It was such a production, and it was just like I just took it all down. But I really would love to have something like that, like an outdoor patio, or something like that where you can do it. But we're like, my wife and I are just like, we got to just fucking get out of this house and get a new house and get somewhere else because we don't want to spend another nickel on this motherfucker.
Sure.
Still bitter about that bloody statue job you didn't get with the county.
That was a bad one, dude. That was a bad one. That was a bad beat.
Yeah.
I signed off from this whole fucking town. I was like, fuck you all. You're not going to give me this thing? Well, fuck you. I'm not helping you out either.
Wow.
Leave all your unpaid parking tickets as well, and you're off.
Speaking of which, that episode of the Full Blast podcast, I sent a message to my friend who was intimately involved with that story. And I said, you can fact check the story and tell me if I'm embellishing or if I'm exaggerating. You tell me exactly. And he goes, that was exactly what happened. So I got confirmation that like my story wasn't a bullshit story.
Yeah. Nice.
Heartache.
Nice. So going forward, Mareko, are you happy with this time? Recording in the mornings, or what do you think?
I mean, I'm fine with the time. I'm sorry. I guess sometimes I think some days I'm definitely not as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I don't know how you guys thought I was today, but
You're
the
fine,
connection.
but like
No, I didn't mean. I just meant the inconvenience of having to get up super early and all that. I didn't mean that at all.
when you do any podcasting outside of your normal 6 a.m. thing, you're different. I mean, people have been sending me messages saying, you gotta stop waking them up so early. You gotta let them breathe a little bit before you start the podcast. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, my brain usually takes a couple hours to wake up.
I would definitely consider
Sorry, go
in
ahead.
regards to that, but it's just like we would probably have to stay away from weekends.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, well, and that would be my concern is because it would, if when we did the Full Blast recording, 12 noon was great for me, and it was the end of the day for you. But I don't know I think that works out to like what 9 o'clock? Oh, wait, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock for Craig.
That's even better. Honestly,
Oh.
the later the better for me because the kids will be in bed.
Right.
It's like now I've got my phone going off saying, Amy, you finished yet? You finished yet? We taking the kids out? And I'm like,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
definitely do Fridays at 3 for me, which is normally when I do Full Blast at 3 Eastern Standard Time on Mondays. I would definitely do 3 o'clock because 3 o'clock works for me because then by the time I'm done, I can go home. It's the perfect time I get home and then then I can walk the dogs.
so what time is that for you, Mareko?
It's noon. It's lunchtime
Noon.
for me.
And you happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, that would suit me perfectly. That's sort of 10 p.m. here. The kids are in bed.
And you can get a little
probably
loose.
would have had a little bit of a drink as well on a
Yeah,
Friday night.
perfect.
You know, it's maybe a bit looser.
You're going to loosen up.
Loosen that tongue.
Goosey goosey.
You're going to go down to
Yeah.
the piggery and get pork.
Oh, do you know that's going to happen? Future episodes will be from the pub. That'll be awesome.
Oh, dude.
We'll have to get you both over for a
would be
live
awesome.
edition in the pub.
That would be great.
Yes.
That would be great.
At least
Make it
someday.
happen.
If we're gonna do it though, it'd have to be for at least a week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if you guys want, I'm totally down for Friday. Friday at that time would be fucking awesome. And then
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a different dynamic because
I think so. And also, that means that we've got the weekends off completely.
Right.
You know, it definitely works for me if you two guys are happy with that. We can
yeah,
start
it
this
definitely
week.
works for me.
Sure.
My family would be
lunchtime
thrilled.
beer.
There we go. Friday it is then. Friday. So yeah, it's sort of end of the week for you two. Let's do it. Friday at 3 p.m. Jeff's time, noon Mareko, and 10 p.m. for me. Perfect.
Cool.
It's gonna be a very interesting, different vibe.
Yeah, it'll be good to see. What I might do is Squadcasts like we're using now. There's this other program called Zencaster, which just had a massive update. And I think that would work better for our sort of workflow as well. So it'll be the same for you guys. You just click on a link and you're in to record. But yeah, it'll just be Zencaster instead of Squadcast. I think that'll be better for the future as well. So we'll try that as well on Friday.
Cool.
That's okay. Awesome. Right, okay, I need to go because my phone is going again.
Yep.
I was hoping Amy was going to reply with the website for the the guy helicoptering his dick.
He thinks you're a weirdo.
It's like a completely like
Yeah, I'm not going to look it up. So I don't want that on my search. I don't want that in my searches. Helicopter dick. I'm not doing that.
I'll surprise it with you one day. You'll ask me a
Yeah,
question.
oh
I'll
yeah.
send you that
Are you
link
going to
and
surprise me
that'll
down
open
the
up
piggery?
instead.
You have your dick out in the piggery, fucking swinging it around.
No, you got to look up SNL skit. It's a digital short called "It's Not Gay If It's a Three-Way."
You know, I tell you what.
It's good.
I
It's
want
That's
to
going to look
like-
good in your search history.
It's so
I'm not
funny.
going to do that either. I want to like SNL. It sucks. Hot take. It sucks. SNL sucks.
They
What
had
are
a
you watching
renaissance
this
for a
week,
little bit.
you guys, anyway? Anything good?
I tell you what else sucks. Here's a hot take. Vision of WandaVision sucks. I'm trying my hardest to hope it's going to be just like the comic books. This is terrible.
I have no idea what that means.
It's bad.
Okay.
It's on Disney Plus.
Disney
isn't it?
Plus. I love
okay.
Disney Plus, but goddamn, WandaVision sucks. And I don't. But everyone says it's great. I'm like, God, trying. I could use something new to watch.
I tell you what, I watched an old film. Well, it's not super old, but last night, Meet the Millers was on. My wife and I watched that. We've seen it years ago, and it just cracks me up.
What's
There's
that?
So many. You haven't seen Meet the Millers?
Well, remind me. Maybe I have.
It's Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The guy who played Ted Lasso. And it's like a National Lampoon's kind of,
Yeah.
that
Is
sort
it
of
good?
humor. It's hilarious. It's brilliant. The little kid called Kenny. It's just brilliant. There's so many moments that you just on the floor laughing. It's very good. But light-hearted, not serious. It's just a complete, escape.
You know who I watch a lot on YouTube? Now I still watch the Food Ranger, that maniac. There's a guy by the name of Mike Chen who I think he's got a YouTube channel called Strictly Dumplings, and he just travels the world eating like ramen, and it's so much fun to watch. I can't stop watching these food shows. I can't stop watching these food reviews. You know what I even also love? I love Dave Portnoy's does Barstool Radio, does Barstool Sports does a pizza review. I can't stop watching those goddamn pizza reviews, and his reviews are so good.
I'll have to check it out.
It's a fucking food thing. Maybe it's
No,
because
I
we're not
see
eating
you're
any
watching
meat
it.
these days.
I watched the Bridgerton series over on Netflix.
Is it good?
I liked it. Yeah, it was good. And
Filthy,
then
isn't it? From what I can gather. I haven't seen any, but I've heard it's filthy.
I don't know. If
Is
it's
it?
filthy? Like you mean sex wise?
okay.
Yeah, I mean there's a bit of
Apparently
sex
so,
in
yeah.
there. Yeah, there's a lot of sex
Yeah.
in it. So
What's
Jeff
it
might be
about?
all right with it. It's kind of like a fantastical world of kind of like along the lines of Downton Abbey, but very I don't know, like Marie Antoinette kind of color scheme, and I don't know how to describe it.
It's Downton with fucking, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Downton with fuck. That's the strapline for the series. Downton with fucking. Just what you're waiting for.
And then have you ever seen Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray?
Oh, we fucking
Yes.
love that movie.
Yeah,
That's
so
a fucking awesome movie.
there's a new movie that came. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, and it's kind of a play on that that idea of how the reporter keeps living the same day, but it's with like these kids, and they've been in it for years, and they find each other, and it's weird. It's interesting. It's cool. It's a sweet story. It's more like it's not like a rom-com or anything like that. It's just I don't know. I liked it.
That reminds me.
Definitely same feel.
I watched on Amazon Prime, I binged Hunters. Have you heard of Hunters?
No.
It's basically like a Nazi hunting crew. It has like a Quentin Tarantino style. The beginning seems like that, but then it really turns not into that. And then Al Pacino's in it, and he's great. And it's all about this. It's a strange, it's a very, very bingeable show about this group who hunt Nazis, like Nazis who escaped Germany and who are now living in the United States. It's very good, very, very good. I finished that off, and the end, the last scene, the last episode is like such a shocker that just like, it's hard not to watch it. And then they made it so impossible for Amazon to not bring it back for a second season. So, hey, Hunters is great.
I'll check that out.
Nice.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Right, I've got to go. I've just had a... okay. You ready for this, Jeff?
Go ahead.
If you want to bring up... Should we do a reaction here so we can see...
Go ahead.
If you go to meatspin.com...
Oh, fuck no. I'm not going to that. I know what that is. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Not doing Lemon Party. I'm not doing any of that shit. That you can forget it. I'm not falling for I'm not doing 2 Girls, 1 Cup. I'm not doing any of that shit. I don't like that stuff. It's fucking gross.
Meatspin.com, that was
fuck
it,
no. Your wife so sent me to go to Meatspin? God damn it. That's crazy. 80s
Right.
nuts.
I've got to go because she's obviously on meatspin.com at the moment. So, right, I've got to go. I shall speak to you on Friday this week. Right then, speak to you Friday. Cheers. Bye.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.